Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. I am your host, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. This show goes beyond cryptids and Bigfoot. We take you down a much deeper rabbit hole. We take on subjects beyond our very own realms and realities. We look at strange phenomenon and the unexplained, such as time travel, UFO existence, strange hauntings and mysteries, as well as the paranormal. We focus on how all of these rabbit holes come full circle. Tonight, Byron, excuse me, from the Bigfoot Society joins me. And of course, the bearded wonder today. I've got Tex. Don't forget, Mondays is Texas Front Porch, 7:30 in the East. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East. Followed up by Jason McLean does a thing on Untold Mysterious AM Radio, 10 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays, Jason McLean questions everything, 9 o'clock in the East. Thursdays is myself, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, 1 in the East. The Blondes and the Booze podcast at 9 in the East that day. You want more of the booze, you get a little woo mixed in on Fridays. The Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo, 9 in the East. And don't forget, our friend Jessica Jones does a thing on Spaced Out Radio on the weekends. 10 o'clock in the East, Saturday and Sunday. Thank you for that. And with that, I'm going to cut the music here. And I'm going to bring up my buddy Tex. And Tex, how's it going, my friend?
What's up, man? How you doing, brother?
You know, I'm doing okay, but you know what happened? This is kind of a funny story. As you know, we've got all sorts of ice. We've got all sorts of storms blowing through here. And, you notice my background all looks the same. Now, I'm actually doing this podcast out of my brother and sister-in-law's bedroom because I don't have internet because of what's going on here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so they've been kind enough, and their computer systems, of course, in the bedroom. It's not in the den. It's not in an office. It's in the bedroom. So I'm just, kind of occupying their area here. But that's okay. They went in the basement, and I think they're probably watching this on YouTube, and they're probably laughing right now. So, but yeah, I'm glad they only live 2 blocks away because tonight there would not have been a show. I mean, you could have probably done it solo, but.
Well, I'd have handled it for you. You know that, brother.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know you handle everything, and that's what we do on the porch crew, man. We do it all. We are always doing something.
We had some thunder sleet this morning.
Thunder sleet, wow.
Thunder sleet, and it's rare. It's rare, but it do happen. Yeah. I've been I've seen thunder snow. I've never seen thunder sleet. This is the first time I've ever got to see it that I remember. It's so rare down here that it was brought to our attention by, who was that? It was Randy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That inundated our group text with
right.
A remark that a young anchor woman made when she was reporting out in Arlington, Texas about thunder sleet, that she thought it was a myth, just like Bigfoot. So, yeah, we had to put the word out and say, look, don't go after the whole pitchforks and torches things. It's not that big of a deal. We get it. She's just not enlightened like the rest of us, but. Not that she's going to watch the show, but
right.
I'm going to throw the invitation out there. You think Bigfoot's a myth? Come on, I'll show you different. That's anytime, right. You're welcome.
That's right. And Tex will do that. He will show you around his area. And that's what I love about Tex. That's what everybody loves about Tex. And, typically, this show isn't really about Bigfoot. This night show, we talk about it. I try to cover other topics, but you know what? I'm gonna bring this guy up right now. He's with the Bigfoot Society, and I couldn't get him booked on Brunch with Bigfoot. I couldn't get him on Texas Front Porch. So I said, you know what? We'll break the mold of not talking cryptids on Tuesday night. We'll do it today. Jeremiah, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Rob? What's up, Tex? Thanks for
How you
having me
doing,
on.
brother? I ran across you on TikTok,
All right.
and that's how we got in touch.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then,
that's right.
yeah, and I said, hey, we need to get you on the show, brother. And I said, I'll have my booking guy reach out to you. Well, hell, unbeknownst to me, y'all already been in touch over Twitter.
I know it's just so many lines going all over the place, and eventually we made it happen. So excited to be here. The chat is blowing up. There's dudes I know in there. There's Brown Dwarf. There's Long Island Bigfoot. You guys got some good peeps in here. So
and I'll tell you what, Dwarf got it going on, bro.
Oh, he does.
He's got that TikTok going too.
He's been a long time supporter of us, good friend of mine. He's if you ever want to have somebody interesting to talk to on your podcast, holler at him.
We've talked a little bit. He's a fun dude to talk to, no doubt.
Duke with World Bigfoot Radio's out there too. If you haven't run into old Duke, that is a experience of a lifetime. Right,
in fact, he definitely is. He definitely is texting. Since I really can't type with this keyboard at this different house, I'm just gonna go run through here. Shane Barber, Chiro, Penny Van, Brown Dwarf, Midnight Watcher, Susan Robertson, Long Island Bigfoot, Demaz Mars, Shane Barber, Gary Spicillo Sr., Lily Pond, of course, the lovely Lily Pond does a great job as a mod for us. Damn, Bjorn Variety, Bobby, Chiro Sounds, Vera Ray. There I go. Texas Front Porch. What's he doing in here? Gene, hello, Gene.
Let him in here.
Never ignore you, Gene. You know that. Just kidding. It's a little inside joke. And it goes on. If I miss you, I'm sorry about that. This is pretty cool. Glenn Dannison, thank you for joining us. Of course, Duke, subscribe to World Bigfoot Radio. Yeah. Magneticus Attractors, Aussie Sue, Amy. Hi, Amy. And I think that's where it ends so far. If I missed you, I am sorry. And don't forget the super chats are open. Super thanks is open long after the video ends. If you want to drop any of us a donation, that's great. But more importantly than your money and your donations is you like, you share, and you subscribe. At Jeremiah Byron. If you subscribe to him or the name of your show, and we'll get started, Jeremiah. Your show is the Bigfoot Podcast Society?
Bigfoot Society Podcast. You look that up on iTunes, Spotify. If you can do anything, go to Apple Podcasts, look up Bigfoot Society Podcast, subscribe, or even just listen to one episode and then subscribe. But probably subscribe first. Yeah.
Very good, man. Thank you. And again, after all that, we brought you on the show, and for those of us, including myself, a little bit, I've watched some of your videos and texts. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into this crazy world that we're all in right now called Bigfoot?
Absolutely. So it's quite the road, but let's start into it. So, as most people stories start, when you're a little kid, maybe your father played some TV for you that's unsolved mysteries in search of. That's that story, right?
Yeah.
So we started off that way, and then in high school, kind of got away from it. I was like, I want to be, cool, not so much. But then mid-20s, I realized, hey, it's cool to be weird, and I started working with some other weird dudes in Iowa, and we were like, man, there's cryptid stuff around us, and what's this Bigfoot stuff? What's this Van Meter visitor stuff, right? So then around 2019, I was listening to the Cryptid podcast, and I was like, man, I could probably start a podcast myself. About the same time, my buddy Andrew, who was working with Small Town Monsters on the Terror in the Skies documentary about Thunderbirds, he was like, come along with me. I'm going to do some footage, some interviews for this doc. And I thought I was just going to watch. Well, I get there and he's like, okay, you need to be the guy who's off camera asking questions. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this, but I was like, okay, let's do it. So halfway through that, I was like, man, I love interviewing people. This is actually really fun. So I started up the podcast early 2019. And at first I'm just talking to random people to do with cryptids. But as I go along, it's more and more Bigfoot focused, right? And I mean, we can talk about this later, but eventually my buddy Tate Hieronymus, you may have heard of, he got me out in the woods last summer, and we had some Bigfoot stuff happen in Iowa, and it's a pretty wild story. But yeah, I've been doing the Bigfoot Society podcast for almost 4 years.
Oh wow,
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your encounter. You know, you talk about small town monsters. Man, I keep running into them fellers everywhere.
I love them.
I'm good buddies with Heather.
Oh,
They actually flew down here and interviewed me for their upcoming Dogman.
Oh, you're in that? Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't wait.
So
yeah, you've been in. Yeah, you've been in for a little while. You catch a couple, right? Right, good old Tex.
I feel like Tex has been around the block. He's been after all the cryptids, I think, dude.
I gotta
talk
tell you,
someday, Tex. I'm getting the vibes from you.
Yeah, you got to. And I just gotta tell you, I met Tex about 5-6 years ago. We've been doing these shows together for 2. As soon as I met Tex via the intraweb, I saw him on some other programming, and I said, "Man, this Tex dude, I gotta start following this guy." And I did, and liked his content, and always seemed like down to earth, and he helped me out, because I had an encounter in 2018 before Bigfoot, before 2018. I didn't even know you use YouTube for channels.
Wow.
I used YouTube for music, right?
Sure.
And then I had an encounter, didn't know where to go. He's one of the guys that I found after 6-7 months of finding people. It was Tex. Long story short, we hit it off, and I was on Tex's front porch when he was just starting out with Jason, and then things happened, and then I joined up, and now we've been working together for 2 years, and I'm can't think of a better guy to start out.
I love how Rob just kind of blew over his encounter. It's because once he mentions his encounter, it never fails. The guest wants to hear it, and he's been over it so many times because see. He had one of those rare encounters.
Okay.
Now, I want to tell you a little bit about it.
All right.
He's only the second person that I know personally that's ever seen a Bigfoot vocalize at him.
Really?
Yeah,
I've never talked to anyone that has had that happen.
Kerry Arnold are the only 2 that I know personally.
Oh, wow.
And of course, Kerry Arnold's passed on.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah. And me and Kerry Arnold, we were really, really good friends.
Okay.
And yeah, it's in fact, I'm gonna pat myself on the back here. When I first met Kerry and he was doing his stuff, I said, "You're gonna blow up, brother. You just watch." And yeah, and he, well, I don't know about all that. Kerry was he was kind of a complicated guy because he had a little bit of arrogance to him, but he was the guy that would give you the shirt off your back.
Sure.
And I mean, the shirt off of his back, and he loved helping people. He loved spreading awareness, and that's what he was all about. And, as fragmented as this community is, he was trying to be the glue, and he was being damn good at it.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
And he's going to be missed. That's for sure.
Oh, no doubt.
And you know what? He would continue to help people out no matter how much they took advantage of him. A lot of people did.
And before we even get into Jeremiah, I'll have to come on your show and do that show.
I mean, it's obvious I'm not going to hear it on this show, so I'm going to have you on to hear the story.
Most of the people that are listening and watching know my encounter.
Yeah, they're like, no.
So I'm just kind of forcing myself on your show. See how I did that so smoothly?
Hey, well, I mean, it sounds like a great story. So let's set it up for both of you. We'll talk after the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, text, just to spout off text. This is what we do too on our channels. We like to entertain our audience, but we do bring knowledge, we do bring experience, but we also have people out that know what they're talking about with researchers and interviewers. And our number one message for everybody out there listening is to help you if you're going through something, because I have an email is open, Tex's email. I do encounter stories myself, kind of like you too, Jeremiah. We'll get into that. Sure. So we have an open door policy, and we don't turn away any story. no matter how far-fetched it might even sound, because we weren't walking in your shoes. We weren't there. Just like what I always say, you can believe me or you don't. I don't care because I know what happened. And I'll take it all the way to the grave with me on that one.
Wow.
So yeah, so you guys started, with your podcast of, you said 4 years now, and you backstage we're talking a little bit before we get into your show, is you actually have had some personal things going on with you with Bigfoot.
Sure. Yeah. We can definitely talk about that. So, my buddy Tate Hieronymus, he's a pretty well-known Bigfoot researcher now. He's a younger guy, but that guy has been into so much stuff already. It's wild, the connections he has, and he goes out to Bluff Creek every year. He's in the Bluff Creek project, those guys that are keeping the film site good to go there. So he's always like, I got to get you out there. Got to get you out here. And I've always been like, whatevs. But last year, something clicked, and he was like, dude, I'm going to be in Iowa. The place that we're going to be is not that hard for you to get to. You got to do it. It's going to be on the weekend. You don't have to take a lot of time off work. Do it. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So got some gear. People that helped me out with that, thank you. If there's anyone in here. So travel to our place in Iowa. I'll tell you, it was a hot weekend. The first day we went out was a Saturday afternoon. Heat index was 110 degrees. We were almost passing out. We were like, I don't know how we're going to make it. Nothing was moving around, right? We set up camp. We're just hanging out. And I learned a lot that weekend about Bigfooting. I learned things like maybe you want to take a nap because you're going to be out late and you don't want to get too tired, right? So Tate is taking a nap in his truck, and I'm just sitting by the fire. And I'm like, I'm just, distracted. And I hear something to my left. I'm like, at first, I was like, man, felt like I heard a knock. Tate talked to me a little bit afterwards. He's like, man, it's been windy. And I was like, well, maybe I didn't hear it. The thing is, I didn't have a recorder going. I wasn't sure, right? I had Bigfoot on the brain. But the next day is when stuff gets a little bit wild. It gets about 30 degrees lower, 30 degrees colder. We're around the campsite, and we're sitting by the fire. Of course, we didn't have the recorder going. First mistake. It's starting to get dusk. All of a sudden, we hear a huge tree just go smash into the ground in front of us, 30 feet in the woods. And immediately I'm like, who set off a firework? That's crazy. And Tate's like, we're so far out in the woods. There's no fireworks out here, buddy. And why, if there's no wind, did a tree just randomly fall down? So not only that, Tate is like, I'm going to get up. I'm going to start doing some wood knocks. He gets out his wood bat and he starts doing wood knocks against a tree in camp. Thankfully, I had the recorder on, because after I missed the tree falling, I was like, the recorder's on the rest of the weekend. It's not going off, right? So Tate hits some wood knocks. Half a minute or so later, we hear a return knock to the right of our campsite. And we both heard it, and it's on audio. And we were like, what is going on? I had the recorder going through the night. And I had stuff going that whole night. Wood knocks all around the camp. The crazy thing is, around 3:45 in the morning, so I checked the logs. There's a series of double knocks that we heard. And then this is when it gets weird, right? So we had the recorder on the outskirts of the camp. And you need to know that Tate is in his truck. I'm in my tent by myself. During that night, I didn't leave the tent to go up to use the facilities or anything. After the double knocks, I captured audio of what is definitely a tent zipper being opened. And for a long time, that messed with me, guys, because I'm like, what did I hear? I didn't leave the tent. No one came in my tent, but something messed with my tent zipper. And the crazy thing is, I'm interviewing people all the time for the podcast, right? I have a guy on randomly about a week or so later, and he tells me a story about how in Missouri, they get audio of a Bigfoot that's in their camp opening up a food container that has a zipper. And then a few weeks later, I talked to a guy who's in the Pacific Northwest who had a young lady staying in his camp in another tent, and a Bigfoot is messing with her tent, undoing the zipper, trying to get in. And that, dude, that really messed with me. I was like, we experienced something wild out there in Iowa that weekend. Same area, other researchers have captured actual Bigfoot howls. We did not capture any howls that time, but there's stuff going on in Iowa. People make fun of us Iowa Bigfoot researchers. Like, yeah, you got nothing out there. Dude, we got something out here. It's wild in certain parts.
they're all over, man.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So after that, I'm 100% convinced that what we have out there, Bigfoot is real. I personally think we're looking at a great ape, but I'm not to say that if you think something is different, that you're wrong, because there's no right or wrong answers yet. We haven't gotten whatever it is and been able to really study it. So yeah, it's crazy, dude.
I understand that. I mean, Pops is in the chat. I call him Pops. It's Gary Senior in there. Oh, he took a girl on a first date to the Fouke deal.
Oh, what a first date!
Yeah, and their tent got turned while they were in it.
And is this the Fouke camp out?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my.
Now, see, he's also part of our group. He's one of our trackers. We have 3 expert trackers in our group, and he's one of them. And yeah, he's been out in the field with me quite a bit.
Oof. I wouldn't know what to do about it. I don't know if I could go back. It'd probably take me a little bit of thinking before I would go back next time. If something's twisting my tent around.
He's pretty fearless, man.
Wow. Hats off for him, man. My goodness.
You know, it's not uncommon either, now that you've brought this up, Jeremiah, and Tex, and I had an encounter story that was sent in to me that I had published, a couple months ago, about a group of Bigfoot. They heard wood knocks, and then they heard footfall around their tents. They did not leave their tents, and the top of the tent came crashing down with, and it would appear to be an arm coming down right on top. And from the shadows in the background, you see this big hominid, Bigfoot, take off. And it's really not uncommon, which is really crazy. I mean, I've heard of it many times, and I've heard it from you, Tex. And thank you, C. Campbell, for that. Appreciate the super chat. But yeah, so it's just nuts, isn't it, right, Jeremiah?
It's crazy, and it's it's like Henry Franzoni says, be careful when you start traveling down that road of Bigfoot. That's paraphrasing him, because sometimes you get a little bit too far down the road, and you never know where it's gonna lead. But
that ain't no lie.
It's, man, the stories that we're talking about this earlier before the show, on TikTok. It's the best place for organic growth right now, but it's where the people are. And the people that are following my account they're like telling me stories, and they're like, I've never told anyone this before, and I've never gone on Facebook and blah, blah, blah. And I've talked to this one dude that I interviewed for the podcast. His stories out of Oklahoma were intense. They were incredible. Stuff he encountered himself, some secondhand stories. And I mean, the one that he told me, I was like, I don't know. I have to really think about going down to Oklahoma after hearing that one. I mean, if I can share it real quick, it was
Yeah, please.
this gentleman in an undisclosed location in Oklahoma. He's up in a tree stand, and all of a sudden he's hunting hogs, right? So the hogs go running by underneath him, and he sees a Bigfoot running after him on all fours. Bigfoot catches up with the hog in the back, gets up on two legs with his arms like this, slams it down on his back, pretty much breaking the back of the hog. And he takes the hog, throws it in the tree. And it's just like, holy mackerel. If I saw that happen in real life, one, I'd probably fall out of the tree, or I'd never come down from the tree. And then it's like, if this is what these creatures are capable of, holy mackerel. You know, we got to be a little bit more aware of when we go in the woods. If these, and you know, thankfully I haven't heard that happen to an actual person where, you know, they're thankfully just sticking to the hogs, I guess. But that was a wild story. I was speechless when he told that one to me. That was wild.
There's a lot of stuff goes on in Oklahoma. That's where I do the majority of my research at.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where we pull those handprints out of.
You got the stories then. Yeah.
A little place called Brown Springs, Oklahoma.
McGee Creek.
I've heard of it.
I don't know if you've ever heard of it. That's where, so the guy I was talking to, that's where he used to go, and the stuff that was happening to him in McGee Creek State Park, or where it's McGee Creek something or rather. It was wild, Tex. It just, you guys got some weird stuff going on in Oklahoma. People don't realize it, I think.
Yeah, it's I guarantee you everybody in our chat does.
They're like, we know the secrets. We know. BMR and Tex told us, don't worry.
We and the thing about it is we've got so much crossover with the paranormal that we run into, you know, while we're down there looking for these critters, and it's just that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out what's what, because a lot of times they'll mirror each other, and it's it can be a grab bag of what you're going to get when you go out.
You know,
Oklahoma, from what I've now discovered, is known. Well, Brown Springs is known for high strangeness, cryptids, paranormal,
really?
And they're also known for tornadoes.
Oh, well, there you go.
You never catch me living in Oklahoma. And no offense to anybody that lives there. It's a beautiful area to live. And I just would not. I don't know. Those tornadoes, they just scare me.
I got to look up this Brown Springs area. That's very interesting. It almost sounds like a little Skinwalker Ranch.
You can actually watch any one of our shows. No, I'm just kidding. Because it comes up.
It's the thing.
Actually, what you got to do, and honestly, and I love Tex. I just love Tex. He's got a great spot. Our last two Tex Front Porch, go check him out, because he does Tex Live in the Cemetery, at which I host the show along with the lovely Brandy. We kind of walk him through a 2-hour show in the woods. We pick up some captures, we hear some voices, and then the week after that, he comes back with the evidence show. So you got to watch back to back 4 hours worth of this stuff. It's well worth your time. And if anybody else hasn't seen it, go to Texas Front Porch. The last 2 episodes, not this last Monday, but the prior 2, watch them. They're fantastic. And you will learn quite a bit about Brown Springs.
Yeah, we actually had him get into a Yeti bear-proof cooler that weekend too.
Really? Oh my goodness! Hey, yeah. I want to call out someone in the chat real quick. Good friend Hellbent Holler's in here, and
oh yeah,
I don't know if it's Jesse or Joe, but you guys both rock. Good to see you in here. So.
Thank you for joining. Absolutely. And so you had that encounter, right? Okay. And is that the first time I know it's the first time.
So
is it the last time?
That was it. Yeah. So Tate was telling me, he was like, dude, you gotta realize that this is not normal, and the stuff that is happening to us is pretty special. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, no, dude, this doesn't happen every time you go out. You gotta be aware that like not everyone experiences wood knocks coming at them and tents being unzipped. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Tate also has a great documentary series on his YouTube channel called Sasquatch: A Search for Sabe. And he actually made an Iowa episode. So if you want to see all the stuff I just talked about and hear the audio with the tent, it's in his episode. So you can go watch it if you'd like. But
No,
yeah.
I do recommend. I just started watching a little bit of it today. You know, I'm so busy. I got this guest coming on. Fantastic stuff. A lot of great stories. So you've got many stories you've gone through. No, that not today. I like you to kind of walk us through. What was that? We were just talking about that. I think I wrote it down. The very last video I was just watching with the two buddies you had on.
Yeah, man, we were so that's an episode I released this Monday. And you shout out to the guys at the Strange Road. They're these cool dudes from out in Ohio, and they're involved with stuff out at the Great Serpent Mound. And I don't know a lot about it, but man, they were blowing my mind with this Great Serpent Mound, and just the weirdness that abounds around that place, and the Bigfoot activity. And we were going back and forth. I was talking about the Van Meter visitor from Iowa. They were telling me about the Great Serpent Mound. But there's so much stuff. The thing I really like about doing this podcast is, one, I can talk to whoever I want, and two, the stories that people have. I mean, I've talked to everyone. Like, I had a gentleman on. We were talking about, giants of ancient America. That's pretty fun. But also, if I could tell you a really quick, interesting Bigfoot story I had, just to run it by you, see if you've ever heard anything by it. And it's kind of paranormal too.
And I will tell you this: I love it when guests as yourself volunteer. Can I say stories? Can I tell stories? Yes.
Yes.
If I'm
All
talking
right.
75% of the time, I'm not doing my job.
Like,
Thank you for making
100%
my
tell the
job
story.
easy. Outstanding. Thank you.
Okay. So this is a story I heard a few years ago, and it's weird. So these guys and I want to say this takes place in Colorado. They're in this park in Colorado, and all of a sudden they see a blue orb in front of them, just floating there in the air, and they're all transfixed by it. They're like, what's going on here? One of them hears something behind them, and this is when it gets weird, because they look behind them a few 10, 20 feet back. There's a Bigfoot standing there with his hands stretched out, almost like he's controlling the orb. And I'm like, what do you even think about that, dude? Like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. That's kind of my paranormal Bigfoot story there. But I don't really know what to think, because I'm thinking he's an actual creature. But who's to say? There are animals that can act weird. I don't know. There's too many questions out there, dudes. But that's the weirdest Bigfoot story that I've had over the years. It's a little bit paranormal, but
Yeah. We usually take about a 5-minute break at 52 minutes. And I kind of don't know if I want to start this now or later, because you had mentioned something, because this is kind of one of those topics, right? You said earlier that you just thought it was just like a beast or a creature. And I was really wanted to wait until the second half to ask you the question, but I guess I'm going to just roll with it now. With all the podcasts you've done, all the people you've spoken to, the personal encounter you had in the woods, and I know you've heard many stories. I'm sure you've watched other shows and talked to people. Are you in the flesh and blood camp, or are you in more of the supernatural / woo camp, or both? See, it's a loaded question, and there's so many
it
avenues.
is a loaded question. Yeah.
And
I would
again,
say
on
so.
this show, Eddie, whatever you decide,
Right.
Again, we don't care what your opinion is. That's what we try to seek.
personally, I would say that as of right now, I would say Flesh and Blood Camp. However, I have talked to people like Tobe Johnson and Henry Franzoni who are, and they'll tell you this themselves, they are as far to the paranormal woo as you can say. And they have some very convincing things that have happened. Tobe and Owl Moon Lab, especially where I don't know how I would explain it if I had a Bigfoot that was messing with my trailer, but I was also catching EVPs on audio at the same time. I don't know how I would, think about that in my own mind, but I haven't had that happen going off of my own experiences, which would be the ones that happened out in the woods with Tate. As of right now, I'm in Flesh and Blood Camp.
If you look at it that way, if you look at it, it was kind of an unfair question. You haven't that encounter you had to me would be like Flesh and Blood. If my encounter would have been yours, I'd be in the Flesh and Blood camp.
Mm-hmm.
But what I saw was flesh and blood. Then all of a sudden, I always described it as a materializer, metamorphosized into what looked like a demon. See, and again, I'm not telling the whole story, but a lot of, if something resonates, and I gotta make mention to you to get my thought process. I saw a Bigfoot fishing with my girlfriend in Lake Cadillac. It was 9 foot tall, reddish brown hair. It looked like a person with Down syndrome. Looked like a human being with long hair. Very tall, very weird, 4 foot wide. I was 90 feet away. Wow. All of a sudden, this thing raises up its arms. It throws back his burly shoulders, and the head is like beneath him. And then all of a sudden, those eyes roll back black into his head. That weird looking skin gets tight. He drops his jaw about 8 inches, exposes teeth, fang-like teeth, and all in unison. It roars, screams, and yells, all in unison without moving his lips. It came from his inner being, man, and it sent out like a shockwave across 90 feet away. Knocks my girlfriend off the boat, knocks me backwards. I now see it out of a lens. Everything's black and white. The blue of the sky is now black is gray. The green forest is now gray. This being is gray. Everything is like, oh man, crazy. And now I'm paralyzed because she falls off the boat. I can't get her. I cannot bring her back into the boat because I can't move. Now, this probably lasted 10, 15 seconds, but it seemed like time went still. And it seemed like it took 50 hours just to move. I finally break free, get her in. The scaredest I was when I looked at the shoreline, this thing's gone. I don't know where the hell it is. I don't know if it's swimming. I don't know. And this is 2018. I heard about Bigfoot when I was 13. Never thought about it really since, right? So that's really the shortest I've ever done that encounter story. So I still don't know what the hell it is to this day.
Let me jump in here and correct something real quick. Rob did not see Bigfoot fishing with his girlfriend. Rob was fishing, and he's,
that's true.
No, Bigfoot was not fishing
grammar's
with my
important. Yeah,
but I tried to get it fast because I hate saying my story because everyone's heard it. But I had to tell you why I'm on the fence with it, with the whole flesh and blood paranormal thing, right?
Man, I would be too if I had that happen. I mean,
and I don't, and I will also say this: I don't even know if that was Bigfoot. I have to qualify that too. I can't even legitimately say that. It started out looking pretty much like you see, on the internet, kind of. But then what I saw after was something you've seen in a Marvel comic book, or worse. So yeah, that's the 5-cent story.
That's wild, dude. Man, to have that on video, could you imagine? That would change everything.
Well, see, now you don't have to have him on your show.
I want to hear. Yeah. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear the summary, though. I know there's more to it than that.
Yeah, there's quite a lot goes into it. It was quite the ordeal, let me say.
Mm-hmm.
So, you said earlier that you've never heard of when you're talking about the pig and it breaking its back and all that kind of stuff. You've never heard that happening to a person. You've never heard any you've never had any reports of people getting hurt.
Not like that. And Yeah, no, I've never taken a report where it was like, I've taken reports where it's like, Bigfoot will be messing with the side of the house, or like there was a guy who had a story where Bigfoot was messing with a dumpster they had in front of the house and just really dented it in bad. So there's a lot of like property damage and messing with stuff around the property and things, but I've never had an encounter story where, you know, um, he's hurting someone, thankfully. He's not like, dog man at LBL. That's a different story, but yeah, I personally have never had a Bigfoot encounter taken where they actually hurt the people. So I don't know if that's different with you guys, but
I've heard a few.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
boy.
heard a few. There was one that it wasn't given to me, but I've heard them.
Yeah.
Old boy was out target shooting. Evidently popped one, and they got a hold of him and bent him backward and stuck him in his truck under. Bent him, folded him in half backwards and stuck him back in his truck.
Really? Oof.
Yep.
That's it's crazy because you have stories like that, and then you have stories like the whole Bigfoot carrying the guy in his sleeping bag. Albert Osman. It's like
yes, absolutely.
I think there's just some squatches out there that are having a bad day.
You know what? I'm with you. I think if you catch one having a bad hair day, it could go south real quick.
I tell you what, just like there's human beings, there's good and bad humans. There's probably good and bad Sasquatch, or you can use the other term, evil and spiritually sound. But it's funny you mentioned, and even the Osterman case, I thought that was funny. Yeah, he was dragged out of his tent, right, and it's one of those stories that it's like you want to believe it, and I guess I tend to believe all stories, right, because of what happened to me. But can you imagine sitting around though? There was Osterman, the husband and wife. I'll talk to them like they're people, right? Husband and wife and the 2 kids, I think it was.
Right.
And then he had to feed the Sasquatch tobacco after a period of several days to finally get it to escape. And the thing about the story is nobody tracked him down. They kind of let him go, from what I recall from that encounter.
I'll tell you this is a weird story that got sent to me on TikTok. This is totally out of left field, guys, so get ready.
All right.
So this lady hits me up on TikTok and was like, so I'm in Washington State, and I'm in this town called Black Diamond, Washington, at this bakery. And they had something called Sasquatch bread. And they had this paper up on the wall that was super old. Like, this is, I want to say she had pictures of it she sent to me. It looked like it was from at least the 30s or 40s. It's a 100-year bakery. But there's a story on there. And here's how the story goes. This lady goes hiking on a mountain near Black Diamond. She goes up by herself. She falls down a rock face, breaks a leg bone. She wakes up in an area. There's Bigfoot around her. And she can't get away because she's broken a leg, right? So what they end up doing is they nurse her back to health with a tea-like mixture and also a special bread that was made from 7 grains and honey. So this bread nurses her back to health. They don't let her eat too much of it because if a human eats too much of the bread, it could harm the human, right? So they also teach this lady how to make the bread as well. So eventually the lady is back to normal. She gets back to the area of the bakery, teaches the bakery how to make the bread, and now you can get Sasquatch bread if you go to Black Diamond Bakery in Black Diamond, Washington. I'd never heard of this story. No one I've talked to has ever heard of this story either, and it's just another weird TikTok thing. But I actually called up the bakery to see if I could talk to anyone there to see if it's real. And it was an older lady on the phone and kind of a language barrier. And I was like, did you know about this story? That like, what's the deal with that? And she's like, oh yeah, I was down in the basement going through all the old files and I found these 2 pieces of paper way back in the corner. And the rest is history. So yeah. I don't know if it's a legit story, but it's one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard. I've never heard of the Sasquatch bread story. So people in the chat, you can have fun with that one, but just another weird TikTok Bigfoot story. So,
You know, a lot of stories aren't even too far out there. I mean, there's stories that go way back that Bigfoot actually bartered and traded with Indians. You can read about that, tobacco and stuff.
that's true. Yeah.
Well, I think Brian Solwern had one on his show about Bigfoot, and I've cracked jokes about it before, driving off on a John Deere tractor. So, it's
Really? That sounds like an Iowa thing, man.
right.
Yeah, I do know that Sasquatch, Bigfoot, they're in all the states, right? But I guess it is when I think Iowa's probably one of the last states I would think. Probably because I've never been there, to be honest. I'm sure you got the forest out there too.
In Iowa?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so everyone in Iowa thinks that it's Field of Dreams. It's all corn.
Yeah.
It's all pigs.
Exactly.
And yet
right.
we've got the area where you can see that. But if you go in certain areas of the state, there are huge state forests that are almost the size, like South Fork, how big that is out in Ohio. It's like almost the same amount of land. Seriously. Like, and you would never think, but it's like, and it's very like there's mountain lions that have been seen out there. It's pretty wild. So yeah. And if you watch the Finding Bigfoot episode of Iowa, they show one of the places in the northeast part of the state that gets a little wild. Backbone State Park, I believe. So yeah, we've got some stuff. We also got corn, but yeah.
Yeah, I figured you did. I've never really. I guess as most people, I don't think of that. Just like Nebraska, my buddy Duke Sullivan says there's Bigfoot in Nebraska, and that's the last place I would have thought.
Oh yeah, did you guys watch Tatonga? On what is it, Paraflix XX or that app or whatever? It's on the Native American reservation north of Omaha. How they've seen Bigfoot there, and it's the Outcast Paranormal guys going up there, like RPGs there, dude. That's a wild story. So yeah, Nebraska's got weird stuff going on too.
Well, that brings the whole bread story brings into question the Bigfoot Bigfoot beard balm products, the Dr. Sasquatch soap. I mean, who knows? Bigfoot may have taught them all to make this kind of stuff. Who knows? Maybe there's secret encounters that we don't know about with all these companies.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
You never do know.
I joke, but it's. I don't think these things are monsters. I don't think they're evil. I'm like you said earlier, Jeremiah. I think it's kind of like football. Any given Sunday, depending on what kind of mood they're in, and I think a lot of it is because I do think they are in family groups. And I think it's how that family group is raised up, how they're taught to believe. It's no different than people being racist because they've grown up that way. They're just maybe somebody shot granddad in the ass and they don't like humans.
Right. Yeah.
So I think there's some of that. And I also think that, they maybe sometimes they just see how awful we treat the land and don't care for us too much, But I do
I think-
think you've heard the stories about them leading the kids back to camp when they got lost and, taking care of them for a few days and all that kind of stuff.
It's missing 411 stuff. And it's like, how do you explain that? I mean, that's just wild, dude. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. I mean, there are definitely instances where, it seems like the creature is, protecting kids. But I think there's also times where, as humans, we tend to take up more and more land. We build houses everywhere. We're taking over places where they're probably living. That's probably not going to leave a good taste in their mouth as well. But
right. I mean, people got to realize you walk in their damn living room, and leave your crap all over the place. Well, how would you feel?
Absolutely.
Which leads me to a great question I got for you, Jeremiah. But we're going to do that after I take a quick 5-minute break for everybody out there. We're going to take 5. Before we go, take our break. Why don't you once again tell everybody? I see the lily pods out there. A lot of people out there, buddy, are dropping your links all over the place. So they are provided. But if you want to personally let everyone know where they can find you outside of your podcast, I know you're on a few other social media platforms.
Yeah, definitely. I want to thank all the people that are doing that. I've never been on a show where people have been doing that in the chat, and I really appreciate it. That's great. That's great for you guys doing that. You can find Bigfoot Society, BigfootSocietyPodcast.com. If you search for Bigfoot Society on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Bigfoot Society on YouTube, and Bigfoot.Society on TikTok is where the really weird stuff happens. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to have you. We'll be back in 5 minutes with more from Bigfoot Society. Some more great stories coming up.
Smoke them if you got them. 4 minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
And we're back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We got Jeremiah Byron from Bigfoot Society podcast. Great podcast, great guests, great show. Mondays is Texas Front Porch. You can find that at 7:30 in the East. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, 9 o'clock in the East on Tuesdays. Jason McLean does something called Mysterious Library on Untold Radio, AM 10 in the East. Wednesdays, Jason McLean is back with Questions Everything at 9 in the East. Thursdays, you got me, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. The Blondes, the Booze, the Blondes and the Booze podcast, 9 o'clock in the East. Again, it's on Thursday. You want a little woo with the booze? Well, the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woos brings it for you on Fridays, 9 o'clock in the East. Jessica Jones, our great friend, Spaced Out Radio, 10 o'clock in the East. And for those of you, Dave Scott, his second annual Las Vegas fan party. It's the weekend, May 19th through the 21st. My Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan page on Facebook has all the details. Dave asked me to share that. Thank you for the super chats from C. Campbell. And Trust Jesus just dropped a super chat. So thank you very much to both of you. The super chat, of course, is open. We've got well over 80 people in chat tonight on both combined channels as we stream on Texas Front Porch and Bigfoot Michigan Rob channels to get everybody. Thank you all for that. And with that being said, I'm going to bring up my co-host Tex and our great guest Jeremiah.
Hello.
Welcome back.
I just want to make sure that Zero doesn't feel alone out there. So I'm gonna have a little snort myself. Normally it's TX whiskey for me. It's made and bottled and everything in Fort Worth, Texas, my hometown, where the West begins. And I thought I'd give a shot to something called Grand Reserve Texas Select. Okay. I thought, man, another Texas whiskey. We tend to put out some good whiskeys. And I didn't read the dadgum bottle till I looked all the way down, and it says product of Canada.
Oh no.
Oh no. Well,
I'm trying to get through this as fast as I can. I got a pretty good dent in it, so we're gonna have a little snort. But I'll be good. I promise.
Yeah, Texas is always good. Those guys out in Texas, that's why they wear cowboy boots. That's where they store all their booze.
There you go.
Tex over Christmas last year, I think it was last year. It was last year. You sent me a bottle of the TX whiskey, and I got to tell you, very good, very smooth. I enjoyed it. And of course, we're not here to promote drinking. If you do drink,
No.
please be responsible. Dave Scott, thank you very much for that
What a
super
guy.
chat. And he wants me to put it toward my sequin bandana, which I'm working on in Las Vegas. Very good.
And folks, it's pretty much official. Me and Rob will be in Vegas. So
Yes, absolutely. And I do have to give thanks to my brother and my sister-in-law because I am broadcasting tonight from their bedroom. That's right. For those of you joining late, snowstorms and ice is taking out my cable at my house. So I had to take my backdrop. I had to go to my brother's house. And yeah, and I'm getting and they're in the living room watching this right now, and I can hear them laughing. So when you see me put it on mute, it's because they're cracking up. So thanks to Dave and Karen for letting me use your home for this show. Because without you, well, Tex could have handled it on his own, I suppose. But thank you to my bro and my sister-in-law for that. And once again, C. Campbell, Dave Scott, and Jesus, that Jesus person out there. Thank you for the super chats. We do appreciate that.
when you got Jesus donating to your
You're doing something
podcast,
Right. There you
you're
go.
doing something right.
There you go.
You're doing something
They can say what
That's
they want
right.
to, but
yeah,
we got the right person on our side. There ain't no doubt about that.
Yes. So we ended the 5-minute break. We were talking. You had made mention about forestry and loggers and money, and I was going to ask you. I do get inundated with quite a bit of emails and things, and I do on the side, kind of like you do. I do a show of videos, and I put out people's encounters, and I get quite a bit of them. And Jeremiah, you do kind of the same thing on your show. Do you think now you made mention of the logging industry? I'm about to get into the politics of that, but what I am going to get into, do you think that there are more people coming forward with encounter stories because of the building of homes? Are these creatures, are they getting pushed out of their natural environments? And we're seeing them more in the subdivisions or the suburbs because of society, commercial building, that we are kind of pushing them out of their environment. Now I know there's just billions and billions of acreages, but on these fringe forests, are we pushing some of these cryptids out? Is that why we're experiencing more reports? Because I know that I am.
I could definitely agree with that, and I could even see as different parts of the U.S. change, as maybe Oregon is on fire. Maybe they're going to start ending up other places that we're not used to seeing them. Maybe Iowa will become the Bigfoot Mecca eventually, since everything else in the West is burning down. But I think you're probably not too far off from what you're saying there, Rob. Yeah.
Hey, Tex, what's your thoughts on that?
Since we're kind of on this subject, do you get a lot of or a lot more reports of quote unquote suburban Sasquatch than you used to? Do you think?
To be honest, most of my reports that I get are from people that are actually still going out into the woods. So,
Right.
And I'm thinking a really recent too, like a gentleman that his interview will be out on Friday about an encounter he had in Northern California. I could talk about that later. Or even a young lady that was in Northern New York and had quite the encounter with something out in the woods. I believe it's by the Catskills area. So I find it, I would love to hear reports. Maybe some days I'll get those where it's, more in like a suburbia setting. That would be very interesting to me, I think, but I haven't gotten any of those personally yet.
Thank you, Zero.
Thank you, Zero Shift. Thank you. Hey, Tex, what was your thoughts on those? You think that we're getting some more push down the suburbs?
You know what? I think that's part of the whole problem because see where I grew up out in the country, as a lot of y'all know. My sister still lives on the old family place out there. Now I tell you, when I was growing up out yonder, you could pop off a 22 in it pretty much any direction and not even have to worry about it. I mean, not that I recommend you do that. It's just an example because a 22 shoots awful far. Now I don't think you could pop off a pellet gun and not hit something. I mean, you got, and I know a lot of Texans will rag on Californians because a lot of them are moving down here, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what's happening. Two of the horse ranches that I used to work on when I was a young fellow have been turned into subdivisions. So, wow. I mean, cattle ranches out there are almost a tourist industry because, a cow, I do think that that is a part of why we're seeing more encounters come through. I honestly think there's two of the bigger reasons is because with the internet, the world got smaller. And number two, you can pretty much be anonymous on the internet, given your encounter.
True, yeah.
And even those that are not wanting to remain anonymous, they feel more comfortable sharing their stories because there's folks like us out here talking about it and we're not calling them crazy. So I think it's a combination. Yeah. But as far as seeing them around, urban dwellings and stuff, well, these places weren't urban, they were rural, and they just haven't moved on. I mean, it's like the people calling 911 because they got a possum in the yard because they don't know what it is,
Right.
And
exactly.
That happened out there where my old family place out there. They had somebody call 911 because there was a possum in their yard. And they didn't know what it was.
There's a possum in the yard?
Yeah, and they wanted the cops or somebody to come out and get it. And it's like, people expect. I think city folk expect, and I'm not dogging on you. I'm really not. But when I think they expect to not see the same things that they saw when they were, and it shocks them that this wildlife comes so close that they're so brazen, Hell, I was driving home the other morning, and saw a damn coyote run right through the heart of the damn town.
Oh, wow.
But there's a lot more stuff going up. There's a lot, and they're trying to find their way out, new places, Hell, I walked out the back door the other night and I'm like, I looked down and right beside my back door, we'd got my dog one of these big old cow femur bones, chew on.
Mm-hmm.
I walked out the damn possum chewing on it right beside the back door.
Oh my goodness. That is wild. That's wild. You mentioned how, you mentioned how we're making an environment where people can trust us and share their stories. And that reminded me of, and this isn't so much actually Bigfoot related, but it is interesting. I do a live show on Sunday nights, and I actually have it so people can call in and share their story, which has led to some really interesting stuff. But I have people listen to those replays, and I had a gentleman contact me, and he's like, I just wanted to tell you that back in 91, I was in the Yuma Proving Grounds in Arizona, and I saw a UFO. I was like, dude, we got to talk about it. So
Yeah.
this is actually, this is coming out either tomorrow or the day after. But I had a half an hour conversation with a gentleman who was in Arizona. He was looking up, he was seeing these UFOs and like things coming out of the UFO, and like that's something what he called an oblong moon, which is like, if you look up what shape oblong is, it looks like a tic tac. I'm like, oh, did he see something like the tic tac UFOs back in the 90s? Crazy stuff. But like, yeah, once you start putting yourself out there and you're like, hey, you can tell me your story, I'm not going to make fun of you, dude, you get the weirdest stuff, man. So,
And we have gotten some pretty, fantastic stories or encounter. I don't even want to call them stories, because that, to me, that,
yeah, I know. Yep.
It just kind of rolls off the tongue, but stories in my mind are made up. And I don't want to say anybody that comes to us is making stuff up. I don't have any reason to not believe them. Just like, to Rob's point earlier, just because we weren't there doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Sure.
Just because it's different than what we've experienced doesn't mean it didn't happen. And that's one of our big things on this on this channel is we're not here to judge. If you're having a problem with this encounter, if it traumatized you or whatever, we're here to help if we can. Even if it's just a bend an ear and listen. We're not asking you to be on the show type thing. You know what I'm saying? It's the email's public, the phone number's public.
Oh yeah.
All you got to do is reach out, and if you need to talk about something, we're going to talk about something. We're going to keep it private. And I think a lot of people are still hesitant with these fantastic, encounters. I mean, we've interviewed people that claim to have given birth to 12 alien hybrid children.
Oh my. Wow.
So
one would be enough.
I know, right?
You're right.
So I get where you're coming from, and I think it's I'm not a fan of these channels that will turn people away just because they don't believe their encounter.
Yeah, that's
what I'm saying. I know, right?
Right.
That's the reason people don't want to share their stuff in the first place.
Yes.
Because they're being
absolutely
judged.
Absolutely.
I mean, I saw a dog man from 25 feet. I wish the hell, I mean, how fantastic is that? I mean, so, it's pretty crazy. I mean, crazy is the wrong word, but it is a fantastical world that we delve into.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Always getting stranger.
I'll let you comment on that too, Jeremiah, in a second. And the thing about it is, again, what I come across to with people is I can relate to people because it happened to me. I can see, like, our show is genuine people. I'm genuine. Tex is genuine. Jason, the girls at the nighttime. The thing about it is we've all walked the shoes and seen things. And my thing that I saw was something that absolutely somebody could probably make that up, I guess, right? Tex could make up a dog, man. The girls could make up things about seeing ghosts and apparitions, And so when somebody sends an email into the channel, and if I do want a video, hey, listen, I tell the people, I'm not here to ridicule or mock you, because who am I to say you did not happen? Now, we always go on to say maybe it wasn't a Bigfoot they saw, it was something else, but I don't want to go down that road right now. But we have an open channel, open line of communication. We're going to report what you tell us. Now, with that being said, I'm sure that you've had some pretty out there stories coming to you that you might have thought about, hey, you know what? should I post this? Should I not? Or you kind of like what we are, and you're grinning, and I got to hear this.
I'm trying to think of how I can keep this really vague for certain things.
Well, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a recent interview I did, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it still, because it's like we're talking about Bigfoot, and then he talks about like his father was in the military, and then he's like, I'm not going to say exactly what it is, because if this is like, I don't want to get you guys in trouble. I'm going to have to deal with it myself. But I'm like, so this guy is like, well, he told me this on his deathbed. I'm just going to say it right now. Who cares? And I'm like, is this going to get us like taken out by someone? And he's like, who cares? I'm old enough. I'm like, oh my goodness.
You're thinking,
like
but I'm not. Wait a minute.
I'm a young guy, dude. It's like,
well, I'll tell you
it's
what.
not live yet, but I'm like,
Jeremy,
dude,
what we do,
happens. Yeah.
Jeremiah, what we do is when we start talking about that kind of stuff, we make it very publicly said, neither one of us are suicidal. We just want to put that out there right now.
That's the thing. Yeah. So that
if something happens,
not live
it was
yet,
not me.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. We'll see. So yeah, man, I get wild stories. Yeah, but I let everyone say their story. I mean, what was that one guy? The one guy from northern Missouri who called in, and he was like saying that Bigfoot had snuck into his kitchen and was like trying to, I think he was like trying to take something out of a peanut butter jar with a knife or something. I just let him go, because like the dude had something to get out, and maybe the encounter was legit. Who am I to say it's not? But it was the craziest thing I've ever heard. And then it's like sometimes they're not. Like I talked to, there's this one lady, Squatch Bits on TikTok. She's a great account, but her encounter was a little weird. It's not the weirdest, but like she was in the Catskills, and as she's coming out of the woods, something kept chucking rocks at her. They kept getting these little rocks. So she gets mad, which is not a smart move. She took this big rock and she was about to chuck it into the woods from where these rocks were coming from. And the minute that she let go, this huge rock came out of the woods right at her head, and she had to dodge to get out of the way. I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know if I would go throwing rocks back at Sasquatch, especially after hearing that. And then
you got rocks for a brain, most likely.
Yeah, not a smart idea. But dude, yeah, you start putting yourself out there in the community like you guys have done, you're gonna get the weird stuff coming your way. Like, there's a story I've got coming out this Friday. This guy named Rich Turgan, that's really cool. He was telling me, and I'll share this ahead of time, but
Sure.
It's not a big deal. But he was camping out in Northern California. They're in a tent, and it's about 5:30. He hears something. He's waking up, and he starts hearing this howl out of nowhere, this crazy howl. And he's like, I'm an audio guy. It's the loudest howl I have ever heard. And all of a sudden, this softer voice starts answering it. And he was like, man, it sounded just like, almost like the Sierra sounds. I'm like, dude, that's kind of weird. So yeah, there's more to it in the episodes coming out on Friday. That's a cool one. He's been to Bluff Creek. He's been to Marble Mountains, where that famous Bigfoot sighting was taken. But yeah, when you start putting yourself out there, you start getting the weird stuff for sure.
Well, of course you do. Of course you do. But what is weird? I mean,
that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
we're what's the point to where we go, okay, that's weird. If
Right.
we're calling it weird, it
Right.
is weird. You know,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I got to tell you, brother, after the stuff that I've experienced out there, I my weird line bar has
Yeah.
been raised so
It's
high.
changed. Yeah, I
that-
totally get it. Oh yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be, the crazy thing about being in this community is you start to get connections. And in the
yeah,
future, like I know for a fact this is not my last Bigfoot in trip, right? And
right.
I've gotten invitations to go places. And if it actually happens, I just think of the wildest place you could go looking for Bigfoot, and I've got invitations to go there. So hopefully in the future, my weirdness bar will be able to even get raised like yours has Tex. But it's just, if you had told me that 4 years ago all this stuff would be happening, I wouldn't have believed you, and it's just it's a wild ride once
Oh,
you
yeah.
start talking to
Yeah.
people and putting it out there on the internet.
It is.
It is a wild ride, and my journey started in 2018. And what you did say though really hits home, because I've met so many cool people though now since I started doing this through the different conferences. I met some of our quote unquote fans, and people come up to talk to us, and you get to see them face to face, and they tell you their stories. And of course, I met text through all this, and there's a lot of great people. The people that, yeah, we're all weirdo, and I'm proud to say I'm a weirdo. And here's the thing, though, you have to say that, right? But the people are the best. Like in our chat rooms, the people that listen,
Oh yeah.
the people that don't even go into chat, that just probably just subscribe and listen. Some of they're down to earth people. They're good people, and I'm glad that we provide this forum and so on. So
Well, and you made a comment earlier, Jeremiah, that you've never been on a show that everybody's posting your links in chat and all that kind of stuff. That's
It's
because
incredible.
we have the greatest audience ever.
Absolutely.
And they anybody that walks in the door, they're very welcoming. Any guest we have, they're posting links and trying to push them over to their sites and everything, because they know that's what we're about, and they share that. And it's we've been really blessed in that way, really have. And I know I know we talked about it a little bit, but I want to tease you a little bit.
yeah, I know.
And
I knew that he was going to do
well,
this.
we've got a lot of new faces in chat too,
Yeah, we do.
and I want to tease them a little bit too. So I want to show y'all something that we came back out of the field with a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
I don't
Yes,
think Jeremiah has a problem with that.
and I
No,
don't
I
have
don't
my
have any problem with
UPZ
this.
attacks since we're getting close to the end, because I know
Right.
my siblings want to kick me out of their bedroom.
It's like we're going to have to go to bed tonight.
No,
Good
you
way
guys
to
are staying
start.
up all night.
Yeah.
This is my favorite out of all the ones that we got. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a hand and a forearm on my truck.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
if you look, it looks like brush strokes, and it's
Yeah.
muddier than the truck. So, I mean,
Wow.
One of the weird things about this, from this picture, it looks huge, but it's not. These hands are smaller they're less than 6 inches long. Okay.
Okay.
But we could not get our fingers to match this spread with a thumb.
That's what
It
I'm
wouldn't.
looking at, because it's like so weird looking.
Yeah. It's so far down, you would have to dislocate your thumb to make that.
That is
And,
awesome, dude.
but, so yeah, that's on the channel. And, but yeah,
That's cool.
it was pretty crazy. And, just And I know I show it a lot here the last couple of weeks, but I'm sorry. I'm like a kid in a candy
Yeah.
store. It's just I'm proud of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
And I
you
tell you
know,
what, Tex, I do tease
it's
you
not a
on there.
blob squatch.
Yeah, and I
You
do
know,
tease
No,
you a little bit.
that's
Tex.
the best thing about it. I was like, don't show me a picture with a red circle around it.
Oh God,
No,
yes,
please
thank
no,
you.
please don't.
I'm glad you're part of that group. You fit in quite
Yeah.
nicely with that. And Tex, I'm
Yeah.
teasing. I knew when I said that because yeah, I'd be proud of it too. And the two shows that we did back to back were just great shows. All the shows are great, don't get me wrong, but you should have seen, it was me and Brandy doing a show. Tex, I gotta give Tex some credit. He walked 200 yards from his truck up to the cemetery, and he walked during the entire 2 hour show. He had his camera. He was talking. He was walking. It was dark. He was by himself. We had him
Oh
stop
man.
twice so we could listen in, right, to the surroundings. And we said, text, stop. And we had 2 minutes of silence where me and Brandy actually did hear things. And some of the people in chat commented they heard stuff going on. Now, this
Oh
was the
wow.
cemetery. And this is more of a paranormal area. Now, Texas seen cryptids throughout here, but this has got everything. And we heard like disembodied voices, we thought. And Tex, I did not ask if you had a chance to go comb through all the video yet or audio. I have not yet. I have done maybe 20 minutes of it, and it's taken me like 5 hours to do 20 minutes. I'm sure that'll be another show, but my point is Tex busted his ass for that whole show, and I'm proud of you, buddy. That was some great evidence, and I would
Nice
show
work.
it too, and I would certainly show it too. So,
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. And we're looking at hoping to, being able to recreate it and bring out more evidence and everything. So, we've got a lot more tools in our tool belt now. And we were talking about weird stuff. We got Geiger counter readings up in the cemetery, just in front of one grave. And then they were gone during the day, but they were there at night.
That's really weird.
It is really strange. And the reading was somewhere between an airport X-ray machine and a chest X-ray machine, according to the chart. I mean, just really weird stuff. And I'm not saying it has anything to do with Bigfoot. The EMF readings we got, in the cemetery and stuff, didn't have anything with Bigfoot. But then you walk down and you see all these handprints and forearm prints and everything all over your truck, and it's obviously made by something that's very, very hairy. What it's like that was the same night that it got in whatever it was, got into the bear-proof cooler in the back of the truck and scooped out water. We identified 3 different sets of prints.
How would you describe, like, did you notice anything about how the fingerprints looked, like a certain texture or anything weird like that? Or
somebody said they were backwards,
weird. Okay.
Let's see. I've got a close up of them.
well, yeah, too. Did you? I wasn't paying attention. You saw? Did you tell? There's dermal ridges actually in those fingertips.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, very.
Let me
clearly.
let me get those up real quick.
Because I've had a few people try to send pictures like this to me in my email trying to mess with me. But the thing about those is, like, you can tell that someone's wearing a work glove because you can see the sleeve.
Gosh.
But like yours doesn't have that. And it's just like, it's awesome the way
Yeah,
it looks.
also
It's good
and
stuff, man.
And even like Tex was saying, I think he mentioned that thumb we're not a human thumb would be.
Right. You can't
Yeah.
match the spread between the
Yeah,
fingers
exactly.
and the thumb. It's like further down and further out. It's weird.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, here, look at that.
Oh man. Weird.
And it's not like the fingerprints are rubbed off the truck. It's dirtier than the truck.
Yeah. Oh man, that is wild.
So yeah, we're really excited about it.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, I think so.
Extremely
Like I said,
cool.
I would rather bring something back like that than 1,000 pictures of something I had to point out and go, well, you can maybe see the nose or the eyes. And, if you turn your head this way and squint real hard, I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
If you have to show somebody a picture and tell them what they're looking at, to me, that's not
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's never a good sign. Yeah.
And Jeremiah, I hope that was a great tease, because I know that we will probably be joining you on your show at one down
Absolutely.
the road. And you got the really abbreviated story that I had to share there, and there's a little bit more going on there. But again, I'm not at my house. I go another little bit longer, but got to get out of here. I know they both got to get up for work in the morning. And
that's true.
But with that being said, one last time, and again, our mods did a great job. Your links were blasted all over.
Appreciate that,
verbally,
guys. Thank you so
where
much.
else? But you got some other things going on. You're on iHeart or you're on Spotify. Where else?
Yeah. So you can just search for Bigfoot Society. If you go to BigfootSocietyPodcast.com, you can find all my links there. Do me a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel. The link's in the chat. Just look up Bigfoot Society. And if you do me a big favor, go up to Apple Podcasts, look up Bigfoot Society, hit the subscribe, and check out a few episodes. I appreciate that. I think you're going to love them. So
absolutely, no, a great guest tonight. I'm glad we had you on, and I had a great time. Maybe we'll probably have you back way down in the future. I do appreciate that. Thank you. When you get some more stories rolling.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Y'all go show Jeremiah some love, man.
Yep, I'm showing
some
love.
Thank you, guys.
So thank you for joining. Thank you, Tex, for co-hosting. Thank you to everybody in chat. I love, and Tex loves each and every single one of you. Until next time. And thank you for the super chats. We do appreciate that. Dave Scott, C. Campbell, Jesus, and Zero. Thank you. I do that from memory. I didn't write it down. Wow, how about that? All right, love you all. Have a great night. I've got to look for the extra. I found the extra, and we'll see y'all next time.
See ya.